In our Haggadah, after we speak about all the different plagues, and we recount everything that Hashem did to our taskmasters, ultimately setting us free, at a certain point we begin to recount all of our blessings. It's called Dayenu. We go over various amazing things you benefited from. Some people sing it, some people chant it. Everybody's familiar with Dayenu. So here is one detail of Dayenu that does not seem to make so much sense. We say, Ilu kara lanu asayam. If he would have split the sea open for us, but he wouldn't take us through on dry land. So we would get muddy feet. And if we would get muddy feet, like big deal. There are important miracles, there are not such important miracles, and miracles that really, so you have mud in your shoes. Big deal. Why is that such a miracle? Why is it worth talking about? So the Rebbe noted that there was a Haggadah called Tzuf Amorim, which was printed in Warsaw. And the year it was printed was 1924. But this Haggadah was special to the Rebbe because it had the Haskama of the Rebbe's father on it. So since it had the Haskama of the Rebbe's father was like a very serious man. He didn't just write Haskamas. So if he wrote a approbation, he must have reviewed it. So the Rebbe then took it seriously. Now the origin of these words is actually in Avudraham, was one of the great Rishonim, who wrote on the Machzor, on the Seder, on the Haggadah. So the Avudraham, as is further developed by the author of this Tzuf HaMorim Haggadah, which kind of collected and modified and massaged different Torah ideas in the Haggadah, Shahakavona, Hilamatziv Shahayino Evrim B'teich Refes V'tit. That, it's exactly what it sounds like. Ilu Havirano Karalano Sayami would split the sea, V'loi Havirano B'seicha B'charav, wouldn't take us through on dry land. Yeah, that's right. And he would take us through, and we would get muddy feet. Shalos HaShaila, comes the question, when we make a comparison between all of the extraordinary virtues and the wonderful miracles that happened and that we recount during Dayenu, Yitzias Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, Haknisa L'Eretz Yisrael, going into Eretz Yisrael, and Binyan Beis HaBechira, the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So really, how valuable or how important is it when you put it amongst that list? Put it amongst us, the person will say, how's life? Life is amazing. It's amazing. I have children, I have grandchildren, I have my health, and I have milk in my coffee. Really? Like, okay, you wouldn't have milk in your coffee, but all those other things are in place. Would that be such a terrible situation? Okay, it's nice to have milk in your coffee, but like that doesn't really fit in the range of the miracles that we're going to take the time to recount and the blessings that we're going to enumerate. What value? How does it measure up? And he wasn't b'nefesh v'tit. So it wasn't in muddy. Okay, and if God would save us, but would come through with muddy shoes, it's pretty good. So whether or not the Tzuf HaMorim meant this or not, I have no idea. But the Rebbe looks at this and he sees within it an allusion to something very, very profound and very deep. And that's what the balance of this class is going to be about. Seeing this through a different, elevated and mystical lens. Now in Chassidus, primarily in the Alter Rebbe's Mamorim of Likutei Torah, and elsewhere, of course the other Rebbeim subsequently spoke about this, explaining the concept of Kriyas Yamsuf from a spiritual perspective. It's far more than just we were in trouble, was a raging sea in front of us, God split the sea open. So here's the basic matrix. Yam hu alma de iskasya. V'yabosha hi alma de isgalya. So there's two worlds, generally speaking. Just like we have on planet Earth, two forms of reality, two forms of life. 3/4 of the globe is covered by oceans, is the oceanic reality, which is beneath the waters. And then there is life above water. The truth is that the Gemara says that Kol ma sheyesh bayam yesh bayabasha, Kol ma sheyesh bayabasha yesh bayam. Everything that's in the sea is on dry land. Everything on dry land is in the sea. And scientists only in the last few decades have discovered this is in fact true. there are volcanoes, there are massive mountain ranges. So the topography of Earth is found beneath the sea also. In fact, the tallest mountain beneath the sea is 3 times higher than Mount McKinley. But they didn't know this until like 1950 something. And the only place on planet Earth which is still really unexplored is the great depths beneath the sea. They keep finding new animals, new creatures. And there's this idea that there's a corollary between animals on Earth and animals on the sea. You have a sea lion. They have just about every animal that you can name above Earth. They've found something, some kind of corollary beneath the seas. So why is that? Why did Hashem create a world like that? A world that has dry land and a world that has sea. Well, you see, it's because the world, as we know it, is a reflection of a divine reality. And in the divine reality, there's an element of that which is, relatively speaking, revealed, and then there's an element of that which is concealed. Concealed means that which is totally inundated and overwhelmed and submerged in godliness. So the creatures of Alma, the Iskasia, which is Aramaic for the covered world, are the creatures that live entirely within God consciousness, and they don't sense themselves as independent. Just like when you take a fish out of the water, it dies. Whereas on dry land, people can be in various realities. So being on dry land, which is called Alma, the Isgalia in Aramaic, which means the revealed world, represents the notion that we feel independent, that we don't feel connected. And the fish represent creatures that are always connected to their source, to their creator. And that's one of the reasons that it's a big thing to eat fish on Shabbos. On a spiritual level, the Kabbalists made a big emphasis on eating specifically fish. That's, as I mentioned, on Shabbos. That's why offerings don't come from fish. Fish don't need to be elevated. The animals need to be elevated. Even the birds who can lift off earth, but they still come back to rest a little. Even they need to be elevated, as the Tzemach Tzedek explains in Torah. But fish, they're pure creatures. In fact, it's even a halacha that if somebody immerses in a natural body of water and there's a fish that's touching him, when he immerses, it's not even considered to be a chatzitza. It's not considered to be an interruption between the water and between the person who's immersing. Why? Because it says, as the Mishnah says. So we're talking about like an elevated kind of reality. So then in the spiritual realm, the water represents Torah or God consciousness, and that's why Isaiah, Yeshayahu Hanavi, metaphorizes in the future reality when Mashiach will come, and he says there'll be a kind of reality that Mashiach will bring about such a global God consciousness that it will be Kamayim Layam Mechasim, that the entirety of the globe will be covered with the knowledge of God. Kamayim Layam Mechasim, like the waters covered the sea. And the Rambam chooses this pasuk to finish his entire Mishnah Torah. The entire recapitulation of Torah Sheba'al Peh finishes off with this pasuk. So there's a great symbolism here. Now, when we talk about then splitting of the sea, we're talking about undoing this process. Kriyas Yamsuf then means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hafach yam layabasha. He turns sea into dry land. That even the covered world, hey, it begolly, all of a sudden now it resonated openly, the concept of Alma Isgalia, the revealed world. Or the concealed world, pardon me. So the revealed world, that which is usually concealed, now became experienced in a revealed or conscious state. Okay, this is all very mystical and very spiritual. So now the Rebbe brings this down into a practical, everyday example of Avodas Ha'adam. We try to serve Hashem. We do our best to try to be a little closer to God, to try to be a little less selfish and materially focused. We try to elevate ourselves a little. This is the story of life. And we keep getting brought down, and we keep trying to pick ourselves up, put ourselves into a higher space. So in Avodas Ha'adam, there are different times in a person's day, let's say. It could be different times in a person's life, but let's say there's different times in a day. Let's make this down in a microcosm. We have B'shas HaTfilah. You can have a time when a person is immersed in prayer. So at that time, Nasan Kol Yehudi B'Hiseder Des Gluya. At least it's supposed to be like that. That during the time of davening, during the time of prayers, that a person he's in an elevated state, he's inspired. We're going to call this Alma, the Isgalia. We're going to call this a state of the revealed world, so to speak. Bechinas Yabasha. The Ilu, conversely, the Meshach Kol Hayoim, all day, the inspiration is not so visible. So we're kind of inverting the situation here from Alma de Isgalia to Alma de Iskasia, which Alma de Isgalia, the revealed world, means I know more of who I am, and Alma Discassia means I'm lost within godliness, and now we're inverting it, making the other going the other way around. So when I'm in a state of clarity, moral clarity, spiritual clarity, person's davening, you could have people have moments of clarity, moments they would never do an Aveda, they would never steal, they would never lie, they would never cheat, they wouldn't do things like that. Why? Because everything's clear. And there are moments of clarity like that. And during the moments of clarity, there's no confusion, there's no obfuscation, everything is obvious, you know exactly what Hashem wants from you, you feel very comfortable in your position as you're moving through life. And that's like a time of davening, maybe a time of Torah study. We have times of inspiration. And all day we get inundated. And the more we get inundated, the more we forget what happened when we were davening. There was a yeshiva student in Temchat Mimim, the original Lubavitch yeshiva. You have to understand, the previous Rebbe was the principal. Okay, this is a kind of yeshiva. The Rebbe Rashab is the leader, the previous Rebbe is the principal. And there was a certain young man who davened with great fervor. And he would go way past the minyan. He would daven sometimes for an extra hour, maybe an hour and a half. But during the day, he didn't learn so well. He wasted his time. He wasn't so studious. So the previous Rebbe kind of called him in and he said, "Listen here, something doesn't make sense. It comes to davening, you're a hero. You're a superstar. It comes to learning Torah, you're lagging behind." So like, what's up with you? So the guy said, "Look, I eat breakfast in between. So I'm very inspired, and then I eat breakfast." So the Frierdiker Rebbe was not impressed, and he went to discuss it with his father. I said, "What do I do with this guy?" So the Rebbe Rashab said, "He has a point." He has a point. When a person is spiritually minded, and you're in the cocoon of prayer, okay, so you can be in a higher, elevated state. What happens then? Because then he gets involved with earthly matters, and all of a sudden, like the same person that was screaming Shema Yisrael, the same person that was so inspired, all of a sudden he's not uninspired again. All of a sudden he gets caught up in the narishkeit of the world. And this is, of course, the story of our life. So b'meshach kol hayom, all day, the Seder Hazu, this kind of inspiration, nisheres etzlei b'efen elam, it remains hidden. It becomes like, in the metaphor here, inverted metaphor, it becomes like Alma de Iskasia. It becomes like the concealed world. It's there, it's beneath the surface, but when you look at it, all you see is sea. You look at this fellow, you don't see anything. You don't see inspiration, you don't see davening, you don't see Yiddishkeit, you see a barracuda who's there to make another buck. That's all. And he'll do whatever it takes. And say, what's going on here? This is the same person that was doing all these spiritual things, and then I don't recognize this individual. So what then, if we had to follow this metaphor along now? Hafichas hayam layabasha, so then turning land, sea into dry land means, Efe, shegam b'meshach kol hayom, that would mean a whole day, a person would be in a state of perfect clarity. He knows exactly what life's about and what life's not about. He's got clarity in life, and he knows what he wants to do. It's just like during davening. No difference between davening and subsequent to davening. In other words, not only is there a lingering effect of the inspiration of prayer, it's that lingering effect is openly and overtly felt. He lives with that inspiration. It's real. He feels it. Now, so we have a person who can live with the inspiration of morning prayers all day. He comes in the morning, learns Torah, davens, gets fired up, and all day lives in a perfectly focused manner. This can be in two ways. Number one, it's when it comes to matter-of-fact reality, when it comes to the actual decisions made. What should I do now? What should I do? What should I do? I'm a Yid, I'm a Torah Jew, I know what I have to do. I have to do the right thing. So, b'nafshei pnima, hu adayin eni batel klapei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His heart and mind may be elsewhere. Aval ketetzah, mi his battle is shoyse b'shas hatfilah, because he was inspired during his davening. So, even so, he remains tethered to Hashem, he remains connected, he remains inspired, even though he's not in that same milieu, in that same environment anymore. So his selfishness, or his focus on self-aggrandizement and self-indulgence and self-pleasure and success and ambition, it's not so noticeable. He remains kind of a spiritually minded, inspired individual. That's one way. And the other way is that he is batlus choideres b'chol mahusei, that sense of nullity, that sense of communion, that sense of subservience and humility before Hashem, it actually permeates his entire being. Gam b'pnimiyus nafshay, into the deepest recesses of his consciousness and psyche. V'hahevdel ben shnei eifan, the difference then between the two. Doima lahevdel otzum shebein madregas habeinani. This is like the difference what Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya of the beinani, the average in-between person, who's a person who's doing everything right, but inside a battle rages. He still has ra, he still has evil. He's thinking about this or that or the other thing, but he never would act on it. Doesn't find evil abhorrent. He doesn't find bad things something which is disdainful, but he wouldn't do it. Wouldn't. In other words, he's got himself under control. When it comes to matter of fact, he'd never eat what he shouldn't eat. He wouldn't go where he shouldn't go. He wouldn't do what he shouldn't do. Is he drawn to it? Sure, he's drawn to it. He's a regular person.
It's number one, right?
That's number one.
Right.
Or even a tzaddik sheni gomer, an incomplete tzaddik. Not only he doesn't have the ability to do the wrong thing, he doesn't actively lust or crave certain things, but he doesn't disdain it either. It's not beyond the purview of his reality. It's not out of his rear view mirror. And then we have a tzaddik who's a tzaddik gomer. A tzaddik gomer, like Alter Rebbe explains in the early chapters of Tanya, is a person who has actually transformed himself. He's weightless. He's left it all behind. Now, we can only talk about people like that. Okay? Not something we're ever going to experience. We can experience a moment of weightlessness, but to experience that, to live a whole life like that, that's not our domain. Now let's go back to the metaphor of the splitting of the sea and the muddy waters. So if that's what it means, if splitting open the sea means to clear away the confusion of life, splitting open the sea means that nothing's hidden. Splitting open the sea means that the truth is overt and apparent and obvious. It's brilliant like the day. It's not when you look at the sea, all you see is a sea, and who knows what's going on. There's a teeming life beneath it. No, brilliant like a day. He knows exactly what's going on with life. So you're able to split open the sea of life. You're open to so to speak, rip away the confusion, and have absolute clarity. Everything should be above ground, so to speak. Everything as it should be. No, kriyas hayam be'efen shechelik mahamayim nishakayim. It could happen in two ways. One way is that you've totally eliminated confusion. You've eliminated the moisture, the water, that which, so to speak, muddies the bottom. Everything is gone. It's on dry land. And that's extraordinary. That's an extraordinary way to live totally inspired, to live with total clarity. Imagine a person can live like that. It's an amazing thing. Doesn't get caught up in the Arishkeit, even for a moment. So that's one possibility. And I mean, the one possibility is that the sea, the confusion is cleared away, but it's still there's still mud on the bottom. It's not that clear. In other words, the confusion is removed. The good is not fully overt and obvious. There's still little water left behind. Literally, muddy bottoms. You're still in the mud. You're not in the water, but you're still in the mud. This is masam l'dag of the beinani. And the tzaddik was incomplete. The taka lives. He still, things get muddy sometimes. Now we understand why you could say on this dayenu also. Hashem took us out of 49 levels of impurity. It's aliyah and flow. Hashem will take us from a level of the worst, and you're in a level of the tzaddik was incomplete, the beinani. Wow, that's already amazing. Even that would be good, but Hashem did greater. He took us out of the lowest level and He put us into the state of perfect dry land. We were like perfect tzaddikim. So that's the dayenu. Dayenu had it been dayenu, even if we could have pulled ourselves away from inappropriate behavior, even if we still would have muddy bottoms, and then we say that would be dayenu. But Hashem didn't do that. Instead, He elevated us entirely. So what does this all mean to us? What does it mean to us? What it means is that on some level, we are capable, because we have to go out of Mitzrayim every day. And all the realities we talk about in our Haggadah have to be reflected in our own life. That we are capable of extricating ourselves not only from the confusion of life, but we are capable, in fact, of leaving behind the muddy bottoms as well. And that has to be something we toil on. Something that we work at. Maybe not all the time, maybe not a whole day, but at least in moments of clarity, at least when we recall the davening, at least when you have that challenge, that test, the thing that's really getting you down, and you stop and you think and you remember that we should go beyond muddy bottoms, we should be able to have a sense of perfect clarity and closeness to Hashem. And we keep doing this, we keep replicating that experience, we keep bringing this into our lives, we keep reliving not only Yetzias Mitzrayim but also Kriyas Yamsuf. So hopefully that brings us closer to Eretz Yisrael and the building of the Beis HaBechira, to the coming of Mashiach. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen.